Hi everyone, welcome to the Pawsitive Post in Conversation. I'm Zazie Todd and I'm joined as always by my friend and colleague Kristi Benson. How are you, Kristi?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I thought today we'd start off by talking about names, namely how we pick our pets' names, how we use our pets' names, and so on. And because I recently wrote a short article for Psychology Today about some new Japanese research that found that cats actually know the names of other cats in their home, which is brilliant. And
Fascinating stuff.
some of them seem to know the names of their people. This definitely does not apply to Harley. It didn't apply to all the cats in the study, but I thought that was really fascinating. So I don't know how many of your pets know the other pets' names.
I think they probably do to an extent, for sure. I don't think all of them would know all of the other dogs' names, but I think they would definitely have, at least they would recognize that some names do apply to them and some names don't, kind of thing. Yeah, I would say it wouldn't surprise me if we ran that experiment, like you're telling me, they look at pictures and they either look a little bit too long or, if we did that with my dogs, we would probably come to the conclusion that it seemed like they would know something was wrong if the wrong name was said, kind of thing.
Yeah, because in the study, they were showing cats, they had the cat in front of a laptop and they would have the name of one of the other cats in the home. And then after that, a picture would flash up. And I think they held the cat for 7 seconds. Some of the cats actually went up to the laptop and kind of sniffed at the picture and stuff. And they measured how long they looked at it, depending on whether or not the name and the face matched. So if they looked longer at it, the results showed that they looked longer when there wasn't a match. So they knew that it's like they're matching the face to the name. So I think that's really quite fun and interesting, and it's a kind of approach that's been used in other studies and with babies as well, because it's quite hard to test if babies know things. So they look at expectancy violations with babies too. And so, I mean, I haven't done anything like this, but I think Melina definitely knows Harley's name, but she comes running when I call Harley. And it's like she knows it's not her. She comes differently than if I've called her, but she's looking like, are there any treats? Are there going to be any treats? Can I take any treats? So she's interested to know what's going to happen. So she does think there might be something in it for her if I call Harley's name. But often when I say Harley.
Give me 1 second. Sorry, my puppies are chewing loudly behind me, so I'm going to move them onto the carpet.
That makes sense. Yeah, so Harley isn't very good at his name, but more often I'm calling him because I'm going to brush him and he loves to be brushed. So I think he sometimes, like if I just say brush, he'll come for brush instead of just Harley brush. Whereas Melina knows that Harley brush is not of any interest to her whatsoever. She does not want to be brushed. Just like I do brush her a little bit, but she's short-haired and she doesn't need it, so it doesn't matter. But Pepper, I don't actually know if Pepper knows the cats' names. I'm not sure. Bodger, when we had Bodger, he definitely knew their names and he knew people's names, but we used to play games with him, like we'd play Find Ghost or something, and or say someone's name and ask him to go find them, and it was just a fun thing to do. So that helped him learn the names for sure.
Right.
Yeah, he was very clever, but I mean, he was an Australian Shepherd. You'd expect him to be clever. And I guess Pepper might learn and when he's been with us even longer, maybe, but he's not very interested in the cats. So that's probably why. Do your puppies have names yet?
They do, yes. So there's we have our little girl. Oh, you can't quite see her. She's oh, there, that's her.
Cute.
Her name is Keithley, and apparently it's the name of a bun, type of bun roll, like a dinner roll kind of thing.
Keithley.
Yeah, Kifli.
Okay, because there's a place called Keithley near where I grew up. So
oh, okay.
But it's spelled very differently.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a good name after a bun.
Yeah, it's cute and it suits her, I think. Like, but and that name, you wouldn't have that name before. So she she sort of went into the puppy selection process with that name in mind. And then for the little boy, we actually took like quite a while, a whole day, I think, to pick his name. And we had a couple of different options. And then I can't remember why, but Archer, I think I was reading a book that had a character named Archer. And it was just one of those ones where it suited him and it was kind of good enough. We didn't argue about it. So. And I think later I came to realize that he looks a little bit like a bandit. Like, I mean, he's got that facial markings. And so there's something bandity about him. And then I thought that the arching bandit, like it kind of worked in my head.
That's really nice. Good names.
So, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we have stories like you just do about the names that we choose. Melina, we called Melina. Melina kind of means sweet. It's the same root, MEL as in mellifluous, and it means honey and sweet and things. And she's a very sweet cat, so that's why she got that name. And it also happens to be the middle name of someone who I was best friends with at school, so that's quite nice too. But it just seemed to suit her, whereas Harley was already called Harley and we just kept his name. It seemed like he looks like a Harley somehow. I don't know why, but he does, so we just kept that name. And it's the same with Pepper. We just kept Pepper. I think it's quite a common name for a dog, but his coloring is kind of salt and pepper. So again, it seemed to suit him and he knew it, so we kept it.
And it's harder than you'd expect to change a dog's name if you've met them with a name and that before they're yours, I think. You know what I'm saying? We had that where two of the sled dogs that we adopted were from litter mates, and one was named Cream and one was named Sugar. And because people who have litters of puppies name them in groups like that. It's like a thing. So we were like, we should change Sugar's name because we thought it was a little cheesy. We wanted to change Sugar's name, so we figured out a different name and we tried to coach ourselves into calling her this new name, but we couldn't. Like it was too much effort. So we ended up just saying, we've got a Cream and Sugar. I guess that's now.
Yeah, they're good names and they go together. So yeah. When we got Ghost, he'd been a stray, so they called him Ghost at the animal control where he was because of his white face. To begin with, people would be like, well, that's a weird name, but it suited him, so we kept it. And then after about a year, all of a sudden, instead of saying that's a weird name, everyone went, Game of Thrones, it's from Game of Thrones, isn't it? So it really changed how people responded to his name. So that was quite funny, especially because he really looked quite wolfy. He looked very wolfy in terms of his size and his shape.
Of the dog in that show?
Yes. Oh. So it's one of the dogs from that, so it still suited him.
Right.
Whereas Bodger, we actually did change his name because he was called Buddy beforehand. Okay. Yeah. And we already knew several dogs called Buddy for one thing, so that didn't seem to work so well. We thought he should have something distinctive. It did take us a while to pick a name, but Bodger, we thought it suited him. A bodger, a lot of people don't know what to bodge means, but to bodge means to kind of make something work, to fix something, do a bit of DIY, and it's not perfect, it's kind of bodged. Right. So we weren't being rude about Bodger, we just thought it suited him. It's kind of fun and practical, right. And it was similar, so we changed his name to Bodger, but a lot of people struggled with it, and because that short A in a Canadian accent, at least from around here, seems to be quite hard to say for the same reason that people struggle with my name. So when we'd say Bodger, they thought we were saying Badger, but anyway, no, Bodger. And apparently there's a children's book with a dog called Bodger, but we didn't know about that. So in French, it would be like a bricoleur. But yeah, so it was easy to change his name because we just said the two together and they're quite similar. So we only had to go like 2 days of saying Bodger Buddy and he knew it. He knew he was Bodger instead. Yeah, he picked it up really quick. Yeah, so that was good. What do you think makes a good name for a pet? I mean, we've talked about it having some kind of meaning and seeming to fit the pet, but is there anything else that you think we should take into account when choosing a name?
Geez, I guess I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could be convinced of 100 different things. One of the things that always makes me laugh about our name selection process is we named a dog Sitka, which is a type of spruce, and it's a place in Alaska. And then, like, you know, after just maybe 15 minutes after it had become fixed in our brains that we had a dog named Sitka, it occurred to us that sit is a relatively common dog training word. And we sort of laughed that we should quickly acquire her sister and name her Lay Downka or something like this. So I guess perhaps, you know, learn from my experience and don't name your dog Come or something, Coming When Called, or Recall or something. You know?
So don't pick the name of a command or cue.
It honestly has not affected. I mean, we don't ask our dogs to sit that often, so it hasn't impacted her life at all. But it was just a funny sort of happenstance thing. So yes, it's something that's easy to yell out as a recall cue. Would be my main thing. So, and shortens nicely, because you know you're going to give your dog a diminutive. Like, there's just no one keeps their dog's full name for the dog's full life. So
no. Pepper, pepperoni, pepperami, peps, all those things. He gets called all kinds of variations on Pepper. Yeah. So yeah, I think we do tend to have not just a name, but lots of nicknames as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so not a cue or action that you want a dog to do. That does make sense. I think you're right. Something that is easy to say, easy to call out, that you won't be embarrassed to call out, and that's not too long as well. I think nothing too long. Yeah. So when do you use your pets' names? Is it just for recall, or?
I guess mainly we don't use their names that much, I don't think. When I'm doing recalls, I'm typically hiking with all my dogs, and so I will just call. My dogs have learned that literally anything I yell out is a recall cue, so it doesn't matter what I say, but I usually say dogs. You know, so I yell out dogs, and then they all come, and that's. But I guess if they all come and Timber hasn't come, then I will call out his name. So yes, that would imply that they do recognize their own name, perhaps. They're like, oh, whoa, whoops, you know, I'm included now.
Oh, she meant me after all.
Yeah. And then I guess because we have so many dogs, and there's quite a, you know, they're personality heavy dogs, and there's a lot of spice factor stuff going on. If we see something about to happen, I'll call a name to distract the dog and get their attention and move them out of, you know, if there's going to be like a hot zone, somebody's getting too close to Timber's bed or something, you know, I'll call. So I guess sort of a distraction. It's probably a mini recall, like come to me and I'll give you a scratch on your head or something.
I used to use Melina's name when talking to Bodger to warn him that she was coming, because she started a habit when he was fast asleep. She started creeping up to him very carefully so that he didn't notice her coming. And then all she would do was sniff him, but he would jump out of his skin. And it was like, she seemed to quite like this effect. Like, she would do it. She was really creeping up to make him jump. So I started telling him, Melina, incoming, so that he would know, and he would sit and look up like, where is she? Where is she? And he would know that she was coming. And then she got bored of doing it. So when he was no longer jumping out of his skin, she stopped walking up to him and sniffing him when he was asleep. So that was quite funny. So I was using it for Bodger, not for her. But yeah, I think for the cats, I use their names mainly just to call them. For Pepper, I say, come here, or Pepper, come here. And he does come, but he comes quite slowly. But also he's an old dog, so he's also slow because he has to get up and stretch, and he's a bit slow to move when he sets off as well. Yeah. How about Apricot's name? When do you use that?
We often, so I guess the main time we use it is if we're around, like if he's coming upstairs, he spends most of the time downstairs in my office. But if he comes upstairs, he's going to come upstairs to hang out with us in the evenings, or he sleeps, you know, on the bed. If we see him, we'll often call him over, as though we think, and this probably isn't true, that he doesn't know we're there. we want to let him know that we're here, so if he wants to come over and sit on the couch with us, if we see him walk by, we'll call. And he definitely knows his name, but not said like apricot. I don't think I'm not sure he would recognize apricot. We've sort of trained him to say it in this like weird cat person way where we go like apricot, and then he's like, whoop, and he'll come.
Oh, that's cute.
And sit, yeah. But you can also say pretty much any word in that same kind of like squeaky high voice, and I think he would respond similarly.
Yeah, maybe, because I think pets like it when we talk to them in that kind of voice that we call pet directed speech. It's like the same way that we might talk to a baby, and for human babies it helps them to learn language, so maybe for our pets it's helping them learn language as well. I don't know, maybe it's helping them learn their names, but yeah, I think they like it. Yeah,
he does respond to it. So we've been trained through positive reinforcement of his presence to use it. And we also use just like robot sounds like meep and boop and stuff. We'll go meep. And he's like, oh, here I am.
Yeah, I guess for Harley sometimes I also would use his name if he's kind of lost where we are, because sometimes he seems a bit lost because he's an older cat now, and I think he has a little bit of cognitive dysfunction, and especially in the middle of the night he sometimes wanders around howling, and I'll kind of call him and then he might come and get back on the bed and go back to sleep again and be okay. But he sometimes seems a little bit lost. He has a few medical issues that the vet is taking good care of, so yeah,
that's hard.
Well, it's what happens when you have an older pet, unfortunately. Yeah, they're all old now. I mean, I guess Pepper was old when he came, but for Harley and Melina getting old, yeah, it's just what happens.
It is.
Yeah.
Years go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I don't think there's any other situations in which I tend to use their names, and I don't know how much they pick up our names, because one of the things from the study with the cats was that the size of the household seemed to make a difference. So if the cat was in a house with just 2 people, they weren't very likely to have learned their name. So that lets me off the hook for the fact that I don't think Harley and Melina know my name or my husband's name. But in households with more people, they were more likely to seem to know them. And that probably makes sense, because probably the people's names get used more often then to make it clear who you're talking to or about, perhaps. So I thought that made sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure how often I would use Yoan's name. I think it would actually be confusing, because I would much more likely only use it when I'm speaking to somebody else and Yoan's not even around, like this conversation. I probably said Yoan's name like 5 times.
Yeah, and when you're talking to your spouse, certainly, I mean, you don't go up to them and say, "Hey, Al," every time, for example. You just talk to them.
One of those really creepy conversationalists. Well, Kristi, tell me how you're feeling, Kristi.
Oh, and I so hate when people do that. And I know salespeople sometimes get taught to do it, either supposedly to ingratiate themselves with you, which it does not at all, or else just simply to help them remember your name. And no, I hate that. So, but maybe if we did that, maybe then our pets would learn our names better.
Maybe they would. You're going to have to do that with Al for the next year.
And see what happens. Or I have to start going to Melina and saying, "Hey, Melina, it's Zazie, I'm here." See if it makes a difference. No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think Bodgy used to know a lot of people's names. Like if people were coming around to the house, I would actually tell him they were coming, because I taught him that soon meant something would happen. I don't know exactly what his concept of soon was, but I used to use it in different circumstances. Like he'd be going for his walk soon. Only I said it the other way, soon walkies, it would mean not right now, but because he was looking hopeful, but it would happen like in 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. So then I would start saying soon, and then the name of the people who were coming. It would often be my parents, and he would run to the window looking all excited and looking for them to see them arrive, which was pretty cool. But I never tested it, so scientifically I should have said the wrong people's names and then had someone arrive so that they didn't match, and seen how he responded then. And that
If you look
probably
long-
would have been quite an interesting test to do, but sadly we don't have him anymore, so I can't do it. But
I
it would
guess
have been
now that I
fun.
think about it, I do have a thing for just for Soleil, who is very much Yoan's dog. When Yoan gets home and the dogs haven't noticed yet, I will sometimes say to her, or if I see her approaching the house, I'll say to her, "Where's your ma'am?" Because I call her your ma'am. I know that's cheesy and I'm embarrassed for even telling you that, but that's what I call Yoan to Soleil. Your ma'am. It's like mom, but not quite.
Mm.
And it's when I say that, "Where's your ma'am?" She'll be like, oh, and she'll immediately go and start looking for Yoan.
That's lovely. That's so sweet. Yeah, yeah. So where did Soleil get her name from? Just for the sun?
Yeah, I don't actually know. Yoan picked her name.
Mm.
So I wasn't in the country when Yoan
Ah.
acquired Soleil.
Mm.
So the name was came pre-selected.
It's a good name. It's definitely a very good name. Yeah, I like that.
I mostly call her Soleil
Yeah.
or Soleil.
Mm. See, we get into those pet names again. We have all these different pet names, not just the name, but all the other names. Yeah, I think that's nice. And I think the pets seem to understand that all these different names mean them. So I think they learn the different versions of their names too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We could add that to the, when people are like, my dogs know 48 toys, I could be like, well, my dog Timber knows 48 versions of his name. So
yes, that would work. Someone should test it, shouldn't they? I think it's definitely a sign of intelligence in a dog. Good, good. So I want to ask you about something you've got coming up, because you've got something very exciting coming up with the Academy for Dog Trainers about heroes.
Yeah, so we decided next month is going to be our Heroes Month. And so we've invited all of our students and grads to post about their heroes, whether they are in the dog training domain or completely outside of it, just so someone who has inspired them to be a better educator or dog trainer, or have maybe a more sophisticated orientation towards animal welfare or what have you, business, it doesn't really matter, just someone who was inspirational or motivational. So, and we've got a couple blogs lined up. Jean and I are doing a conversational blog, so we this type of blog where we email back and forth and have a conversation essentially with each other. So we're picking our heroes, and I let her go first, and of course she picked one of mine, so then I had to pick someone else.
Darn it. Well, you have to have several heroes, clearly. Yeah, so
and then we're doing some just like some social media stuff. So Jean's picked some quotations that she's found particularly sort of snappy from some of her heroes, and we're going to be posting them on Facebook. So I'm really excited to hear more about who inspired our grads and our students, who inspired them. It's going to be interesting, exciting to sort of learn more about people outside of our own little realm.
That's really nice. So that will be for June, because we're recording this in May, but probably people won't be watching it until the beginning of June. So
okay, so yes, this is the month then. This is the Heroes Month.
Yeah, so June is Heroes Month at the Academy for Dog Trainers. And do they go to the Facebook page to learn more about that? Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. And I have an upcoming event as well, because of course my book Purr, The Science of Making Your Cat Happy, came out recently, and I've got a book event at Hub City Bookshop, which is in the US. But it's an online event. I'm not going to the US. It's all happening online. So it's open to everyone. And I'll be reading from Purr, and I'll be answering questions about cats or writing the book or whatever questions people have. And if anyone wants to come to that, they can go to my website, companionanimalpsychology.com, and they'll find the details and the link to it on the very first page. So it's free, but registration is required. And I'm looking forward to it, because this is a bookstore that has a bookstore cat, which I think is very nice. So I know that it's being organized by cat lovers. I don't know if the bookstore cat is going to put in an appearance, but I think every bookstore should have a cat. I think that's a very good thing for a bookstore to have, wandering the shelves.
It seems to go together.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because, it's nice to sit down and read a book with a cat on your lap anyway. So maybe you can even do that in the bookstore. I don't know, but I think that's a nice thing. Yeah. And that takes us to books. So do you have a book to recommend? Don't tell us just yet, but
I
do
do.
you,
Yeah.
you do? Good. I'm going to start with the book club books.
Okay.
So at the moment, this is May, so we're pretending it's June, but right now it's May. So I'm going to talk about the May book. This is Fuzz by Mary Roach, which Fuzz, When Nature Breaks the Law, which has been the book for May. And it's about human wildlife conflict mainly, although the title of it in the English version in the UK is different. There they've called it Animal, Vegetable, Criminal, When Nature Breaks the Law. And that's actually probably a slightly more fitting title because it's not all about animals. So some of it is also about plants, and it's got a section on the dangers of trees falling on your head and a section on how dangerous legumes can be and how they can be weaponized by terrorists. So that was a bit of a surprise in the
Wow.
middle of the book. um, but it's really interesting because it's got lots of examples of human wildlife conflict, and some of those are set in BC, or she's been to learn from people from BC. So at the very beginning, she goes to some training for conservation officers. They don't call them that in the US, they're called something else. But anyway, it's led by people from the BC Conservation Officer Service about what to do about bears and so on. And she also later tags along with a wildlife biologist who's tracking cougars. So those bits to me are the most interesting because they're kind of like the most relevant to what it's like here in BC, because we get black bears and cougars and bobcat and so on through our yard. And I wish I was better at tracking and could recognize all the signs more, but I know they come through and I've seen them from time to time. So that's pretty cool. And she also goes to India. And I don't know how you feel about having to walk to work and potentially being stalked by a leopard, but she goes and finds out about leopards and elephants in India and some of the conflicts there, which actually people seem to deal with quite well because they are more tolerant. They don't want to kill the elephants, for example. They want to look after the elephants, but somehow protect their crops at the same time. But they sound like quite terrifying conflicts, potential conflicts.
Yeah.
You would not want to be stomped on by an elephant or attacked by a leopard. And then at the end, because it does everything, it's got rats, mice, and stuff at the end of it as well. So, and she's a humorous writer, so it's quite interesting and it's a fun book, and it's a funny. I mean, it's a funny title, When Nature Breaks the Law. Maybe gives you an idea of the approach that she's taking to it, and it's people who make the laws. What does wildlife care about it? But it's interesting anyway. So it's an interesting read. So that's the May book. And the June book, I'm really, really lucky because everybody said that they would like to read Purr, which is really nice. And I feel very, very honored and lucky. Yay, you have it too. Hold them both up. Yeah, you can tell this is the one I've been using for readings because I've got pages marked with little cats. So I don't know what to say about this. Purr, the Science of Making Your Cat Happy by me is about how to make your cat happy. It takes you all the way through from getting a kitten or cat, all the things you need to know about setting your house up for your cat, taking them to the vet, and caring for a senior cat and what to do at the end of life. And then it's got a checklist for a happy cat at the end, like Wyke had a checklist for a happy dog. And I'm really pleased that people wanted to read it. And I think I won't be taking part in the discussion, but I'll be answering questions that people have. So people can still be completely honest about what they think about it, but they have the option to ask me questions about the book or about cats. So that's quite nice. And the book club read Wag a while ago, so that was very nice too. That's good. Yeah. So that's the book club books. What book are you going to recommend this time?
Okay, so this is a book that I actually pulled out. I read it before. I pulled it out for Heroes Month. It was going to be one of my heroes, but Jean stole her first.
Oh.
So, but I still get to recommend the book. So it's, can you see that?
Plenty in Life is Free. And, you
Yeah.
know, yes, I love that book. And she would definitely is one of my heroes too. So, yes.
So, I mean, it's a really slim, beautiful volume. Like, I think it's, the message is beautiful, but also the writing is beautiful. So it's one of those books that, you know, you kind of get through in a single session. And it I think for people who have experience only with maybe an older style of training or sort of a particular orientation towards dogs where they, you know, we're sort of raised to expect obedience from children and dogs. So if we're couched in that way of thinking, it's a really beautiful invitation to start considering dogs in a whole new way. So, and I mean, it's just well written, beautiful message, and such a good, important message. I think a welfare increasing message for dogs, and for us too, right? Instead of feeling like upset and, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job, being the you know, mini dictator in my home, to instead just having sort of being able to use this, I mean, the messaging in here, to use it as a platform to sort of leap forward into a new way of interacting with your dog. So definitely it would have been one of my hero books if Jean hadn't.
Yeah, I think I love that book. I've read it twice, I think, and bits of it a bit more. And there are so many lovely quotes that you can just pull out from it, which, as you said, absolutely beautifully written, but also lovely ideas about how you can interact with your dogs. And a nice personal story interwoven in amongst all of the stuff about dogs too. Yeah, I love that book, and I think it's a must for every dog person's bookshelf.
For sure. Yeah. And I love I think some people are great writers without bringing themselves into it, and some people do a great job of bringing themselves into the story, and kind of, so people who are good at it, it really gives you like sort of a way to jump into the story with both. You almost feel like you're having a conversation with someone who you really like. So I think she does a great job with that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Great choice. Okay, so mine is a novel.
Okay.
Happiness, a novel by Aminatta Forna. And I really enjoyed this book. It's set in London, England. And the two main characters are a woman called Jean, who is a fox researcher. She's American. She was previously a coyote researcher, but she moved to London and she's studying red foxes in London. So it's got the animal slant in there, and it's got sections about how people treat wildlife, how people treat coyotes and foxes. And the other main character is a psychiatrist who is from, I think it's Sierra Leone. And he's just come into London for a conference where he's the keynote speaker. And they literally, at the beginning of the story, they literally bump into each other on Waterloo Bridge in London, because he's looking at something and she's following a fox. And then they keep bumping into each other and get to know each other. And he finds that a friend of his has unfortunately been evicted by her landlord, and she's in hospital, and the kid's been taken away by social services. So he has to track what happened to them. And the boy doesn't return home. He runs away from his foster home. So they have to find him, and he enlists a whole load of people to help. And so the fox researcher already knows a lot of people, like council workers who street sweep and things like that. And he, because of his background, he knows like a lot of doormen and so on, lots of people. They all go out and help. They find the boy, so the boy's all right. And it's just a really nice story. And through it all, he kind of develops his own ideas about how people deal with trauma. And so I guess it's called Happiness because it speaks to the fact that just because someone has had a traumatic event doesn't mean that they are necessarily damaged and have a lot of problems from that. They can find ways to deal with it or to cope with it and to grow through it. So it's a very philosophical book, but also like the plot is moving along all the time, and it's beautifully written, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I haven't actually read anything else by this author, but I'm now going to go through her backlist and see what else she's got. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed reading it. So that's good.
That sounds
so
great.
yeah. So that's a few choices for people. If they're listening in and want to try some books, leave us a comment and let us know what you're reading at the moment, because we would love to know. And if you like this recording, also please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. That would be great. And thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, everyone. Bye.